online as far as, they got what they deserve.
Instead of showing love.
Yeah, and these people had families and all kinds of things like that, and it's a mass tragedy.
Yes.
Let's just say that.
A loss is a loss, no matter how it was done.
Absolutely. And so definitely praying for those victims in Orlando, their families, and just that whole area. Because, when something tragic such as that happens, it kind of shakes up. I mean, we feel it here in Michigan, but just imagine those people that are living in Orlando. There is certainly a shaking that's taking place.
I would be scared to leave the house. I don't have time for
See
that.
what I'm saying? And you're here in Michigan with us, so we definitely want to pray their strength, and then just hopefully they understand that they don't have to have the spirit of fear. But just peace, love, and a sound mind, with your self-control. Just keep moving. Just keep pressing. God does all things well. His ways are our ways. His thoughts are our thoughts. We don't understand why he does things the way he does sometimes and why he allows things to happen.
True.
But we all know that he does everything in divine order. And that, it's going to work for our good. There is a lesson in it, I believe.
A lesson in everything.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the revelation on that. Let me tell you. He hasn't given it to me yet. So if anybody hears a word or, somebody says it at their church, God reveals something to them as to what the purpose of the Orlando shooting was, y'all tell me because
I will.
Yeah, because he hasn't spoken it to me. And it's very important that I say that because a lot of times when things happen, we have real deep, spooky saints. Mm-hmm. That God talks to them directly. They have to. Their connection is so tight that when anything happens, they're the first person that God connects with. Mm-hmm. I'm not that guy. If you ain't said I'm not.
I'm working trying to be that guy.
If the Lord did not tell me, I'm not gonna make it up.
No.
I remember when I was a minister, and it's funny because I was under a pastor at the time who was trying to really cultivate my prophetic gift, and so sometimes he would be like, "Okay, what is the Lord saying?" And I was so brutally honest that sometimes I would be like, nothing. In front of the whole congregation. And he'd be like, come on, Ron, he's saying something. I'm like, no, really, he's not. I promise you, he's not saying anything. But it's funny, but the principle of it, well, I know now that I know how to tap into my prophetic gift.
Right.
But at the same time, then my thing was, well, I don't want to make up no story. If God's not talking, I'm not about to say he's saying anything. No, sir, no, ma'am. So even with this situation, I believe that there is a message. I believe that God is speaking in some way through that incident. He just hasn't given me the revelation. So I would love to know what he has said to someone else concerning it. All right, moving right along. Now, I will say this. I do not like to report on Donald Trump because I am not a Donald Trump supporter. I'm not, and it's okay. I don't wish him any harm. I don't want him to walk in the middle of the street and get ran over. Okay.
I mean,
I just don't support his campaign. Let's be clear. And it's as simple as that. A lot of people don't like to talk politics, especially in a forum like this. However, I do not support his campaign.
Neither do I.
This is me. I'm not a Donald Trump supporter. However, because it's headline news, we must talk about it. He is exploring the idea of profiling. He's saying that it's something that he thinks should be done when people come from other countries to the United States. He says, and I quote, I think profiling is something that we're going to have to start thinking about as a country. Trump said this on CBS Face the Nation. He says, we really have to look at profiling. We have to look at it seriously. And other countries do it, and it's not the worst thing to do. I hate the concept of profiling, but we have to use common sense. We're not using common sense. It's so funny because as I'm reading this story, I can imagine how he's saying it. Okay. After the Orlando terror attacks, Trump reiterated his call to bar some Muslims from entering the country and his belief that U.S. officials should consider specifically profiling Muslims when looking to prevent terror attacks. Okay, so I'm going to say this. Now, the issue I'm having already is that the difference, he's not saying let's profile immigrants. He wants to directly profile Muslims.
that would be wrong to just corner them out of everybody.
Engineer Bob, what do you got?
Excuse me. First of all, I have a few problems with this. The first problem I have is we're talking about profiling as if it is a new concept in the United States of America. There is already plenty of racial profiling and religious profiling that already takes place within the U.S. And so, what are you talking about? Are you talking about profiling on a higher level? I mean, if you look at the terror watch list, and you see who's already on there, we see that there's plenty of profiling that already exists. So if we're talking about taking it to the next level, I mean, I think we're already at that point where it's already extreme. I think the kind of profiling we do already. So what exactly are we talking about here? The second thing is I think some revelations that came out in the ensuing days after the shooting, I think revealed to us that this wasn't even anything about one's religious affiliation. I mean, we know that this was a hate crime, and the person who the person who did the crime just happened to be of a particular faith, and so
correct.
We are. I think that and Donald Trump was significantly he was I won't say crucified, but he was definitely what's the word I'm looking for? He was definitely criticized heavily for taking this event and using it to as validation for some of the things that he had already said and some of the stances he had already taken, such as the building of the wall situation and things that he's already said about Muslims. But when other revelations came out, it just seemed as if that kind of not necessarily nullified the importance of talking about the situation, but it did show that this situation was not to validate anything that he was saying at all.
Right.
So.
Right. So and so that was my thing too. I'm pretty sure that we already profile people before they come over. I'm pretty sure about that.
Oh yes.
I mean, there's a pretty. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that
Oh yes.
you know, because his wording was, and I quote, "We have to use common sense. We're not using common sense."
And another thing, I'm glad you said that. Oh, I'm sorry. You the host. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's the Ron Todd. It's the Ron Todd show. It's not the Engineer Bob show.
You're fine, man.
I apologize, man.
I promise.
But you just that just triggered in my mind the other thing I was gonna say. You talking about common sense. If we really want to have a conversation about common sense, why is it that nobody wants to have a conversation in this country about gun control?
Yes.
Wow.
Nobody wants to have the
is an
conversation.
issue.
And we're not saying that everything in this country would be solved by stricter gun control laws, but I mean we do need to have the conversation, and we need to try to figure out, okay, who should have a gun and who shouldn't.
Yeah.
Why is it that it's harder to vote in this country than it is to get a gun? I just don't understand that. And so that's what we need to be talking about when we're talking about common sense.
Absolutely. All right. So since we're talking about common sense, we got to move along to our last story here. Two Osceola County Sheriff deputies escorting a funeral procession for one of the victims who were injured in Saturday's in the Orlando shootings. The deputies, they were on motorcycles at the time of the crash, and both were transported to a local hospital. One deputy was in serious but stable condition. The second was in stable condition. The motorist, identified as Yvonne Robles Morales, 44 years old, of Kissimmee, said she thought someone waved her to cross the procession, and she entered the intersection, the Florida Highway Patrol said in a news release. So, to be clear, this was a processional for one of the persons that was injured in the Orlando shooting. He was a guy who was protecting his girlfriend. As a matter of fact, he was actually in school to be a firefighter, and he chose to shield his girlfriend from the bullet in Orlando's shooting, and he was killed. So my thing is, this is pretty cut and dry to me. If it's a processional, we wait. No one flags you in. We don't wait for anybody to flag us in. We sit there. I don't care if you're going to work. I don't care what you have to do.
Hospital.
Listen, you wait.
There
It's
goes that
real
common
simple.
sense thing again.
It's real simple.
It's very
How
simple.
did you think somebody flagged you in? Now, mind you, this is a funeral for one of the victims, so I'm pretty sure it was a big processional. What
Right.
make you think somebody gonna flag you through that?
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
And then how did you think somebody flagged you through so that you can hit people on motorcycles? That was a poor excuse, ma'am. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Could have been deeper.
That thing got up to my skin. Shame on you. You don't get flagged into a processional. You don't cut over in a processional. How you gonna hit the police escorts trying to get to your appointment at the beauty salon? Are you for real?
Did she get a ticket?
You gonna let another tragedy happen during the processional because you trying to get to the grocery store and you forgot your Kroger card at home anyway. Listen,
They don't.
when we get back, our guest will be with the stock